My desk was occupied by someone else. On the last day of my maternity leave, I came to the office early to report back. When I pushed open the project department door, a woman with a ponytail was typing at my computer at my workstation. The desk nameplate had been changed. 3 words on it, Vivian Moore. Below it was a smaller line, Project Director. Before my maternity leave, I had been Project Manager. I'd never heard this name before.
1.
I stood at the entrance to the project department, carrying the celebration cookies I'd brought for my colleagues. The nameplate was newly made. The plastic cover still had its protective film on. My personal belongings, my mug, photo frame, desk calendar, had been packed into a moving box and tossed in the corner of the break room. A sticky note on the box read, Emma Sullivan, personal items awaiting pickup. The handwriting belonged to Lisa, the receptionist. I didn't touch the box. I turned and headed to HR. Rachel was inside. The company's HR director, in her early 40s with pearl earrings, always spoke with a smile. Emma, you're here? Sit, sit, sit. She poured me a glass of water. I said, someone else is sitting at my desk. She smiled slightly. The company did a restructuring in Q3. Your position was consolidated. Consolidated? The Horizon project now reports to Vivian Moore. She's our new project director. Your project manager position has been eliminated. I stared at her. The employment contract I signed before my maternity leave listed my position as project manager. Contracts can be amended. Rachel pulled a document from her drawer and pushed it toward me. The company has arranged a new position for you, Administrative Support Specialist. Take a look. I looked down at the transfer agreement. Monthly salary, $6,500. Before my maternity leave, my monthly salary had been $18,000. I said, my position is project manager with a salary of $18,000. It's clearly stated in my employment contract. Rachel's smile faded. Emma, let me be frank. You've been gone for 98 days. The company doesn't support freeloaders. Projects can't stop. Clients can't wait. During the 3 months you were away, the team has established a new rhythm. She pushed the transfer agreement closer to me. Administrative specialist is also a formal position. It's stable, no overtime, suitable for your current situation. What situation? You just had a baby. She smiled. Managing projects is stressful. What if your milk supply? I didn't let her finish. When did I sign a position change notice? Well, when did the company consult with me about the transfer? We're consulting now, aren't we? Consulting isn't notifying me of a decision that's already been made. Rachel's smile remained, but her eyebrow twitched. Emma, don't take this so seriously. The transfer is based on the company's business needs. Look over the agreement and consider it. I didn't take the pen. I pushed the agreement back untouched. I've considered it. Yes, I'm not signing. I stood up. Before leaving, I took out my phone, opened the recording app, and pressed pause. The recording had been running since the moment I entered HR. This was a conversation I participated in. I had the right to record it. Walking to the break room, I crouched down and opened the box. My mug was still there. On the bottom of my cup was a small note I'd stuck there before my maternity leave, with the phone number of my college friend, Michelle Chase. Michelle, a labor attorney. During my 3rd trimester, we'd had dinner and she said something. If the company messes with your position when you return from maternity leave, call me immediately. I'd laughed at her for being paranoid then. I dialed. She answered after 3 rings. Michelle, I'm back from maternity leave. My position is gone. Did you record it? Yes. Did you sign the transfer agreement?
No.
Good. Her voice was steady. Photograph the agreement and send it to me. I'll review it tonight and call you back. After hanging up, I moved the box to the cabinet at the back of the break room. I didn't take it with me. I walked back to the project department. The woman named Vivian Moore was still typing at my workstation. I didn't look at her. I opened my phone and logged into the company's project management system. Horizon Group's Smart Logistics Platform project, the project I'd led for 8 months. I clicked on the project details page. The project lead section had a different photo, an unfamiliar face. Below it, the name, Vivian Moore.
2.
I sat in the coffee shop on the ground floor of the office building and took screenshots of the project system pages. Sent them to Michelle. Then sent another message. I managed this project from initiation to contract signing. $3.8 million. Michelle replied with 3 words. Keep digging. I opened WhatsApp and searched for the project group chat. Horizon Group Project Team. I'd been removed. When I tried to access it, there was only one gray line. You have been removed from this group by the administrator. I checked when I'd been removed. April 17th. Day 15 of my maternity leave. That was 3 days after I'd left the postpartum care center. My phone vibrated. Jenny. Jenny was a junior project manager in the project department. I'd mentored her for 6 months. Before my maternity leave, she'd helped me follow up on the final payment confirmation for the Horizon project. The message was brief. Emma, you're back? Can we talk? I replied, I'm at the coffee shop downstairs. 5 minutes later, she came down. She sat down, stirring her coffee, not looking at me. Emma, there's something I don't know if I should tell you. Tell me. She opened her phone, searched for a while, then pulled up a photo and handed it to me. It was from last Friday's project review meeting, a photo of the projection screen. The PPT cover read, Horizon Group's Smart Logistics Platform Project Review Report. The bottom right corner credited, Project Director Vivian Moore. I said, scroll through. She flipped to page 7. Client pain point analysis diagram. I'd drawn it. A month before my maternity leave, I'd worked from home until 2 a.m., creating 3 versions in Visio before settling on the 3rd. Flip to page 12. Technical Solution Comparison Matrix. Every vendor's score, weight, and unit price. I'd filled them in line by line. Flip to page 23. Project Phase 2 Expansion Plan. I'd written this during my last week before maternity leave. I finished at 3 a.m. Contractions had already started. Every page had the same credit in the bottom right corner. Vivian Moore. Jenny didn't dare look at me. At the review meeting, Vivian presented everything. Deputy Director Anderson sat below, nodding the whole time. During the presentation, did she mention my name at all? Jenny shook her head. What about the others? Nobody mentioned you. I handed her phone back. Emma, what are you going to do? Can you do me a favor? Name it. The review meeting PPT. Can you get me the electronic file somehow? Jenny hesitated, then said, it's archived in the meeting system. I don't have access, but I can photograph all the projected slides for you. That's enough. I continued. One more thing. Yes, you've worked in the project department for 6 months. You followed the Horizon project from initiation to contract signing. You know who wrote the proposal. Of course you wrote it. Jenny said, every time we revise the proposal, you send it to me to verify the data. I still have all the versions you sent in my email. Keep those emails safe. Emma, I'm not asking you to pick sides. I only need one fact. Who created this proposal? If one day you need to tell the truth, would you be willing? Jenny looked at me for 3 seconds. Yes. I got home, nursed the baby, and put her to sleep. I opened my personal email account. Before my maternity leave, I'd forwarded all Horizon project correspondence to my personal email. Not because I anticipated today, but because after working on a project for 8 months, these materials felt like a diary to me. I opened the first email. Date, July 6th last year. Subject, Horizon Group's Smart Logistics Platform Project, Initiation Application. Zenda, Emma Sullivan. Recipients, Deputy Director Anderson, CEO Shaw from Horizon Group. This email was dated 8 full months before Vivian Moore's hire date. I opened the last email before my maternity leave. Date, March 12th this year, 2:07 a.m. Subject, Horizon Project Phase 2 Expansion Plan, Final Draft. Zenda, Emma Sullivan. Recipient, CEO Shaw, Horizon Group. CC, none. 3 days later, I started my maternity leave. I sorted all the emails by timestamp and took screenshots one by one. Then I opened the photos of the projected PPT and looked for the file properties. Jenny had photographed carefully. The file properties showed one line. Created by Emma Sullivan. Last modified by Vivian Moore. Modified date, May 20th. Day 35 of my maternity leave. She changed my attribution, used my proposal, and reported my achievements. I packaged all the screenshots and sent them to Michelle. Michelle replied 10 minutes later. The evidence chain is basically formed, but I need you to confirm one more thing. Can you still log into your company email? I tried. Password incorrect. Tried again. Account locked by administrator. My heart sank. I immediately opened my personal email and searched for all the forwarded Horizon project emails. They were all there. Not one missing. But the original emails in my company account were now inaccessible. Someone with administrator privileges had accessed my email. 3. Michelle said, you're certain all the emails you forwarded before maternity leave are intact? All there. My personal email has complete forwarding records with complete timestamps. Good. Don't make a fuss about the locked company email yet. You need to do something now. Check your company email login records. I can't log in anymore. You don't need to log in. Log into the WhatsApp admin backend and check the operation logs using your employee ID. Your ID hasn't been deactivated, right? I tried. My employee ID was still active. I navigated to the company email operation logs. April 18th, 10:14 a.m. Operator, System Administrator. Operation, batch delete emails, filter condition, contains keyword Horizon. Number deleted, 47 emails. I stared at that number. 47 emails. From project initiation to contract signing, all correspondence. All deleted. The operator was System Administrator. Only 2 people in the company had company email administrator privileges: IT manager Ryan Lee and HR director Rachel. I took a screenshot, then scrolled down. April 18th, 10:30, 1 a.m. Operator, system administrator. Operation, changed password for user Emma Sullivan. April 18th, 10:33 a.m. Operator, system administrator. Operation, locked company email for user Emma Sullivan. 17 minutes total. Delete emails, change password, lock account. Day 16 of my maternity leave. That morning at 10 o'clock, I'd been at the postpartum center changing my baby's diaper. Michelle said, "Send me the screenshots. This operation record itself is evidence. It shows the other party deliberately destroyed your work trail. But the administrator privileges belong to the IT manager and HR. How do I prove who ordered it?" You don't need to prove who ordered it. You only need to prove 2 things. First, 47 work emails were deleted from your company email without your knowledge. Second, your personal email has complete forwarded backups with timestamps earlier than the deletion time. What does that prove? It proves someone systematically erased your work trail during your maternity leave. Combined with the position adjustment, project attribution changes, and salary reduction, this is a coordinated attack. I put down my phone. The baby slept peacefully beside me. I picked up a pen and wrote a line in my notebook. Day 15 of maternity leave. Removed from project group. Day 16, email deleted and locked. Day 35, PPT attribution changed. Day 98, workstation gone. 4 timestamps. 1 line. This wasn't restructuring. This was a pre-planned purge. The next day, I went to the company. Didn't go to the project department. Went straight to the IT department in the administrative building. Ryan was at his workstation. I didn't mention the email issue. I smiled and said, "Ryan, I can't log into the system after returning from maternity leave. Could you check my employee ID status?" Ryan clicked his mouse a few times. "Your ID is still active, but your email is locked." "Who locked it?" Ryan hesitated. "It was an administrator operation. I can't see from here whose directive it was." "Did you do it?" He shook his head. "Not me. I was on a business trip for a week during that time. I gave my password to administration." "Who in administration?" "Someone from Rachel's team." I didn't ask more. I thanked him and left. Downstairs, I documented Ryan's words in text, noting the date, time, and location. Sent it to Michelle. Michelle replied with 1 word: solid. That evening, Jenny sent me a new screenshot. It was from an internal department group chat. Date: April 15th. Day 13 of my maternity leave. Deputy Director Anderson had posted a message. "All of Emma Sullivan's project permissions are transferred to Vivian Moore, effective immediately. All future Horizon Group coordination will be handled by Vivian Moore." Below, Rachel replied, "Processed." Further down, Vivian responded with a received emoji. In the entire message chain, no one mentioned whether Emma knows. No one mentioned handover. Nobody at me, because I'd already been removed from that group. 4. I didn't act immediately. Michelle said to gather all evidence first and not alert them. I spent 3 days doing one thing. I compiled all my work from the 8 months before maternity leave. Every email, every version of the proposal, every client meeting minutes, I had forwarded backups in my personal email. 47 emails total. Additionally, I pulled up my Snapchat conversation history with CEO Shaw from Horizon Group. From our first meeting to contract signing, all communication was here. CEO Shaw had only worked with one person throughout, me. I didn't contact CEO Shaw. Not the right time. I was doing something else. I looked up Vivian Moore's hire date. The company internet directory still showed it. Vivian Moore, hire date, March 8th. My due date was March 22nd. I started maternity leave on March 15th, which meant Vivian Moore was hired during my last week at the office. She was hired while I was still working at the company. I recalled the situation during that last week. March 12th, I sent the Phase 2 proposal final draft at 2 a.m. March 13th, I had my last project briefing with Deputy Director Anderson before maternity leave. That day, Deputy Director Anderson said, "Don't worry about the project while you're on leave. I'll keep an eye on it." March 14th, I organized handover documents at my workstation. That afternoon, an administrator brought a new person to the project department. Ponytail, polite smile. "This is our new hire, Vivian Moore. She's getting familiar with the environment." I nodded at her. Didn't think much of it. I assumed she was a new project assistant. March 15th, I started maternity leave. Looking back now, Vivian Moore hired March 8th. Deputy Director Anderson tells me on March 13th, I'll keep an eye on the project. I leave March 15th. April 15th, day 13 of my leave, Deputy Director Anderson posts in the group that project permissions are transferred to Vivian Moore. April 18th, my email is wiped. May 20th, PPT attribution changed. July 1st, I return. My workstation is gone. The entire timeline was crystal clear. This wasn't a temporary arrangement after I left. This was arranged before I even left. I organized the timeline into a table and sent it to Michelle. Michelle sent back a long message. This is worse than I anticipated. This isn't simple maternity leave discrimination. This is premeditated position replacement. They arranged someone to be hired, waited for you to leave, then transferred permissions, deleted traces, changed attributions, and finally forced you to transfer or resign. The evidence chain is sufficient to initiate labor arbitration, but you still need one key piece of evidence: motive. You need to figure out Vivian Moore's background and why Deputy Director Anderson would do this. That evening, Jenny sent me another message. Emma, I found something out. What? Vivian Moore used to be a project assistant at Prosperity Tech. The VP at Prosperity Tech is college friends with Deputy Director Anderson. You're sure? Positive. At the department dinner last month, Vivian got drunk and said it herself. She said she got this job because Director Anderson put in a good word. I closed my eyes. Deputy Director Anderson brought in his own person, pushed me out of my position, and used my project achievements to elevate her. I'd been set up. From the day I got pregnant. It was a chilling realization. The timing was too neat, the steps too deliberate. Deputy Director Anderson hadn't just capitalized on an opportunity, he had orchestrated a vacancy. The next morning, I returned to the office. I didn't go to the break room to retrieve my box of personal belongings. Instead, I walked straight to Rachel's office in HR. She was on a call, but when she saw me standing in the doorway, she gestured for me to sit down, wrapping up her conversation quickly. Emma, thought about the agreement? She asked, her tone light, almost dismissive, as if she were asking if I'd decided on lunch. I have some questions about the restructure, I said, keeping my voice level and calm. According to the company handbook, any organizational restructuring that results in position consolidation requires a written report from the department head and approval from the VP of operations. I'd like to see those documents. Rachel's hand stopped on her coffee mug. Her smile didn't vanish, but it stiffened. Emma, those are internal managerial documents. They aren't typically shared with employees. I am an affected party whose contract is being modified, I replied, looking her directly in the eye. If my position as project manager has been eliminated, there must be a formal record of that decision dated prior to my return. Additionally, I'd like to know why my company email account was deactivated and 47 project-related emails were deleted on April 18th, while I was on approved leave. The name of the date and the specific number of emails made her eyes widen slightly. It was a momentary slip, but I caught it. Email maintenance is standard IT procedure for inactive accounts, she said smoothly, recovering her composure. My account wasn't inactive. I was on protected maternity leave. And standard maintenance doesn't involve selective keyword deletion of active client projects, nor does it involve transferring password access to administrative staff while the IT manager is on a business trip. Rachel leaned back in her chair. The warmth in her eyes was entirely gone now, replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. Emma, you're making a lot of assumptions. The company has offered you a stable role with no overtime. If you choose to reject it, we will have to look at other options, including termination for failure to accept a reasonable alternative assignment. I understand, I said. Could you please put that option in writing? Along with the explanation of why my previous role was eliminated and why my compensation is being reduced by nearly 2/3. We will communicate our formal position in due course, Rachel said, her voice dropping a register. But I suggest you think about your career prospects. The industry is small. Bridges burned are hard to rebuild. I'll keep that in mind, I said. I stood up, walked out of her office, and checked my phone. The recording was saved. When I reached the ground floor lobby, my phone rang. It was Michelle. I reviewed the documents you sent last night, she said without preamble. The timeline is incredibly tight, but we need to make sure we don't give them a reason to fire you for cause before we file. Did you sign anything? No. I asked for the restructuring documentation and the formal transfer notice in writing. Rachel threatened me with termination for rejecting the alternative assignment. Perfect, Michelle said. That's constructive dismissal and retaliation. Let them put it in writing. If they don't, we write to them first. But before we do that, we need to address the Horizon project. You said the Phase 2 kickoff is coming up? Yes. The contract for Phase 1 is complete, but Phase 2 involves the actual software deployment and API integration with their core logistics database. It's highly technical. And Vivian Moore is running it now. According to the system, yes. Keep an eye on that, Michelle advised. If Vivian Moore was hired through nepotism and has only assistant-level experience, she is about to hit a very steep learning curve. Don't help her, but don't get in her way either. Let her run the project. I understood what Michelle was implying. A $3.8 million project is not a presentation slide. It is a living, breathing beast of dependencies, deliverables, and technical risks. If you don't know what you're doing, it will expose you very quickly. Over the next 3 days, I didn't sign the agreement, and HR didn't send the termination letter. They were likely consulting with legal, realizing that a sudden termination immediately following my return from maternity leave was a liability nightmare. I was given a temporary workspace in the corner of the administrative pool, a small, windowless cubicle near the copy machine. My daily tasks consisted of sorting paper invoices and filing travel expense reports for other departments. I did the work methodically. I arrived at 8:50 a.m. and left at 5 p.m. on the dot. On Thursday afternoon, I was at the copy machine when I saw Vivian Moore walking toward the break room. She looked stressed. Her ponytail was slightly messy, and she was carrying a laptop, talking on her phone in a hushed, hurried voice. I know, but the schema they sent doesn't match the API documentation we have. No, the legacy system uses a SQL database, and our platform is running on MongoDB. The integration layer is throwing a 504 gateway timeout. Yes, Anderson is in the meeting with them now. She hung up, rubbing her temples. She saw me standing by the copier. For a second, her expression tightened, but then she forced a polite, professional smile. Hi, am I right? I'm Vivian. Yes, I know, I said. Listen, she said, stepping closer, her voice dropping. I know things are a bit awkward with the transition, but I wanted to ask you about the Horizon legacy system. I saw in the archive notes that you handled the initial data mapping. I did, I said. The client is insisting that we use their existing middleware for the API handshake, but our technical team says it's incompatible without a custom wrapper. Did you discuss this with their tech lead during phase 1? I looked at her. Her eyes held a mixture of anxiety and a strange kind of entitlement, as if she expected me to hand over the key to her problem because we were colleagues, ignoring the fact that she was sitting at my desk, earning my salary, and claiming credit for my work. All of my technical analysis and meeting minutes were logged in the project management system before I went on leave, I said politely. If they aren't there, you might want to check the archived files. I looked, she said, a trace of frustration slipping through. The files from March are missing some of the technical specifications. The folder is empty. A cold realization hit me. The folder was empty because they had deleted my company email and likely cleared my local drive profile when they wiped my workstation. In their haste to erase my presence, they had deleted the very technical documentation they now needed to execute the project. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. But as I've been transferred to administrative support, I no longer have access to the Horizon project files or system permissions. I'm sure Deputy Director Anderson can help you coordinate with the technical team. Her face went pale. Emma, this is a critical issue. If we can't resolve the integration pathway by tomorrow's review, the project timeline will slide, and there are penalty clauses. I'm aware, I said. The penalty is $15,000 for every week of delay. It's in Section 8.4 of the contract. I took my copied papers and walked back to my cubicle. That evening, I checked my personal email. Among the 47 forwarded emails was one titled, Technical Specification Addendum, Legacy Database Integration, Confirmed. Attached was a 45-page PDF document detailing the exact wrapper code and middleware configurations required to make the systems communicate. I had spent 3 weeks negotiating this with Horizon's lead architect, securing a signed waiver that exempted our company from liability if their legacy system failed. It was the shield that protected our project from failure. And I was the only person who had a copy of it. On Friday morning, the tension in the project department was palpable. Even from my remote cubicle in the admin pool, I could hear the raised voices coming from the main conference room. Jenny sent me a text at 10:15 a.m. The review meeting is a disaster. CEO Shaw from Horizon is here in person. He brought his technical director. Vivian tried to present the standard integration model, but their tech director called her out. He asked why we aren't using the custom wrapper agreed upon in March. Vivian didn't know what he was talking about. Anderson tried to cover for her, but Shaw is furious. 5 minutes later, another text. Shaw asked where you were. He said, "Where is Emma Sullivan? She's the one who designed the integration architecture." Anderson said you were on an extended leave of absence due to family transitions. Shaw looked very skeptical. I didn't reply. I kept filing my invoices. At 11 a.m., my desk phone rang. It was Rachel from HR. Her voice was no longer smooth or calm. It was tight and hurried. "Emma, can you come to conference room immediately? I'm currently in the middle of processing the Q2 travel expenses for the marketing team, Rachel," I said. "Is this an administrative task?" "No, it's regarding the Horizon project. Just come up, please." I hung up, adjusted my blazer, and walked up to the 3rd floor. When I opened the door to conference room A, the atmosphere was thick with tension. CEO Shaw was sitting at the head of the table, his arms crossed, a deep frown on his face. Next to him was his technical director, Dr. Eris Thorne, a no-nonsense man in his late 50s. On the other side of the table sat Deputy Director Anderson, looking unusually flushed, and Vivian Moore, who was staring at her laptop screen with a red face and nervous eyes. Rachel was standing near the door. When I entered, Shaw's expression softened instantly. He stood up and extended his hand. "Emma, good to see you. I was told you were on extended leave." "I returned from my maternity leave on Monday, Mr. Shaw," I said, shaking his hand. "It's good to see you too. If you're back, why aren't you in this meeting?" Shaw asked, his eyes shifting coldly toward Anderson. "We're having a major disconnect regarding the legacy database integration. Dr. Thorne says the standard API model your team is presenting today will crash our inventory system." Anderson quickly intervened, a strained smile on his face. "Emma has recently transitioned to a support role within the company to assist with her transition back from leave. Vivian is now leading the project." "A support role?" Shaw's eyebrows went up. "The architect of our entire logistics system is doing support work, while we are in the middle of phase 2 deployment. It was a mutual organizational decision," Rachel added smoothly from the corner. "I didn't sign any transfer agreement," I said, my voice quiet but incredibly clear in the silent room. The silence that followed was deafening. Anderson's jaw tightened. Rachel's eyes flared with anger. Vivian looked as if she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. "What do you mean you didn't sign?" Shaw asked, his voice dropping. "My position remains project manager under my contract," I said, looking at Shaw. "However, my access to the project files was revoked, and my workstation was reassigned during my maternity leave. I do not have the technical files or the authority to discuss the project under my current assignment." Dr. Thorne spoke up. "Emma, do you not have the custom integration wrapper specifications we signed off on in March? The ones we spent 3 weeks refining?" "I have the complete technical documentation, Dr. Thorne," I said, "including the signed waiver exempting our platform from liability regarding your legacy database latency." "Where is it?" Anderson demanded, his tone sharp, losing his professional veneer. "It's not in the project directory." "The project directory was cleared of my files on April 18th, I replied, looking directly at him. "Along with my email account." Shaw stood up. He looked at Anderson, then at Rachel, and finally at Vivian. "This is unacceptable," Shaw said, his voice flat with authority. "Our company is investing $3.8 million in this platform. We chose your firm because of Emma's technical competence and her understanding of our logistics architecture. If she is not leading this project, and if your internal politics have compromised our project files and timeline, we will terminate the contract for cause under Section 12.2. He turned to me. "Emma, I want a meeting with you and our technical team on Monday morning. I want to see the integration specifications. If you are not there as the project manager, my next call is to our legal counsel to pull the contract." He picked up his laptop, signaled Dr. Thorne, and walked out of the room. The door closed, and the room was dead silent for several seconds. Anderson turned on me, his face red. "What do you think you're doing, Emma? Are you trying to sabotage this company?" "I didn't delete the project files, Director Anderson," I said calmly. "I didn't reassign my own desk, and I didn't try to pass off someone else's work as my own." I looked at Vivian, who was staring down at her keyboard, her hands trembling slightly. "We will discuss this in my office," Rachel said, her voice shaking with suppressed rage. "No," I said. "We won't. If you want to discuss my employment status, you can speak with my representative." I took a business card from my pocket, Michelle's card, and laid it on the conference table. "My attorney will be contacting you this afternoon." I walked out of the room, went down to my cubicle, packed my personal laptop and my notebook into my bag, and walked out of the office building. I didn't look back. When I got to my car, I called Michelle. "It happened," I said, my heart pounding, but for the first time in days, I felt a deep sense of relief. Shaw was there. He demanded I be in the meeting on Monday as project manager, or he pulls the contract. "I refuse to discuss anything without you." "Perfect," Michelle said. "They are in a corner now. If they lose a $3.8 million project because of maternity discrimination and illegal data tampering, their board will have their heads. I'm drafting the formal demand letter now. I'll include the WhatsApp logs, the email deletion records, the PPT modifications, and the wage reduction agreement they tried to force you to sign." "What are we asking for?" I asked. "Reinstatement with full back pay, a written apology, a promotion to senior project director with a salary to match, and the immediate termination of the individuals involved in the discrimination and data deletion," Michelle said. "Or, we go to court for a 6-figure punitive damage suit. The exposure for them is massive. They will choose to settle." "How long do we give them?" 24 hours, Michelle said. "They need this resolved before Monday's meeting with Shaw." At 3 p.m. that Friday, Michelle sent the formal demand letter to the company's executive board, CCing the CEO, the VP of Operations, Rachel, and Anderson. The attached evidence package was over 80 pages long. It was a masterclass in legal documentation. Every claim was backed by a timestamp, a system log, or a verified document. Exhibit A, the contract and compensation structure. Exhibit B, the WhatsApp admin logs showing the deletion of emails and account locking while on protected leave. Exhibit C, the metadata properties of the PPT presentations showing Vivian Moore overriding Emma's authorship. Exhibit D, the recording of Rachel's verbal threats regarding termination and milk supply. Exhibit E, the timeline of Vivian's hiring, showing she was brought in specifically to replace Emma prior to her leave. By 4:30 p.m., my phone was ringing continuously. Anderson called twice. I didn't answer. Rachel called 3 times. I didn't answer. At 5:15 p.m., I received an email on my personal account from the Executive VP of Operations, Marcus Vance. Subject: Urgent. Meeting request: Emma Sullivan. Dear Emma, I have received the correspondence from your legal counsel. The details outlined are deeply concerning and do not reflect the values or policies of this organization. I would like to invite you and your attorney, M.S. Chase, to a meeting at our corporate headquarters tomorrow morning, Saturday, at 10 a.m. to resolve this matter directly. Please let me know if this time works for you. Sincerely, Marcus Vance, Executive VP of Operations. I forwarded the email to Michelle. We go, she replied immediately. And we don't back down. Saturday morning, the corporate office was quiet. The bustling energy of the workweek was gone, leaving the high-ceilinged lobby feeling cold and cavernous. Michelle and I were escorted to the executive boardroom on the top floor. Marcus Vance was already there. He was a tall, silver-haired man in his late 50s, known for his direct, no-nonsense approach to business. Next to him sat the company's general counsel, Sarah Jenkins. Rachel was not in the room. Anderson was not in the room. Emma, Ms. Chase, thank you for coming on a Saturday, Vance said, gesturing for us to sit. Let's get straight to the point, Sarah Jenkins, the general counsel, said, opening a folder. We have reviewed the evidence package. The operations logs regarding the email deletions and account modifications are troubling. We have initiated an internal investigation into the IT department and HR. It's more than troubling, Ms. Jenkins, Michelle said, her tone professional and razor-sharp. It is a coordinated effort to commit pregnancy discrimination, wage theft, and contract interference. The evidence of retaliation is absolute. If we proceed to court, we will be seeking statutory damages, emotional distress damages, and punitive damages. Furthermore, Horizon Group is prepared to terminate their contract for cause, citing key personnel manipulation and bad faith. Vance sighed, rubbing his forehead. He looked at me. Emma, you've been with us for 4 years. Your performance reviews have been exemplary. What happened here was a severe failure of oversight. It should never have happened. It didn't just happen, Mr. Vance, I said, my voice steady. It was planned. My position was targeted the moment I disclosed my pregnancy. Vivian Moore was hired to take my place before I even went on leave. My work was systematically rebranded to make me look redundant. Vance nodded slowly. I understand, and I am prepared to rectify this. Here is our proposal. He pushed a document across the table. Michelle picked it up, and we reviewed it together. Reinstatement and promotion. Emma Sullivan to be reinstated immediately as Senior Project Director, with a new monthly salary of $21,000, an increase from her previous $18,000. Full back pay, full compensation for the days since her return, plus a one-time signing bonus of $25,000 to cover legal fees and inconvenience. Project leadership. Emma to be restored as the sole lead on the Horizon Group project, reporting directly to the VP of Operations, bypassing the project department's local management. Disciplinary actions. Deputy Director Anderson to be placed on immediate administrative leave pending termination for gross misconduct and conflict of interest nepotism. HR Director Rachel to be demoted and reassigned to a non-managerial role pending a full compliance review of her department. Vivian Moore to be reassigned as a junior assistant in a different department, or offered a severance package. Michelle read through the agreement line by line, her face expressionless. She looked at me and gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. We require one addition, Michelle said. A formal, written apology from the executive board, acknowledging that the restructuring was invalid and that Emma's position was never legally eliminated. This will protect her professional reputation from any rumors of performance issues. Vance looked at Jenkins, who nodded. We can agree to that, Vance said. We will have the final contract ready for signature within 2 hours. Can we count on your presence at the Monday morning meeting with CEO Shaw? I will be there, Mr. Vance, I said, with the technical specifications. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. I walked into the office building, carrying my laptop bag. The air felt different. The heavy, suffocating anxiety that had weighed on me for the past week had lifted. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor. When I entered the project department, the atmosphere was quiet, almost reverent. Jenny was at her desk. When she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she gave me a thumbs up. I walked toward my old workstation. The desk nameplate had been changed again. The plastic cover was gone. The 3 words printed on it in bold, clean letters. Emma Sullivan, Senior Project Director. My mug, my photo frame, and my calendar were back on the desk, arranged exactly as they had been before I left. Vivian Moore was not there. Her belongings were gone. In the corner office, the blinds were drawn. Anderson's nameplate had already been removed from the door. At 9:30 a.m., Marcus Vance and I walked into conference room A to welcome CEO Shaw and Dr. Thorne. I opened my laptop, connected it to the projector, and opened the PDF file of the integration wrapper. "Good morning, gentlemen," I said, looking at the screen. "Let's talk about phase 2.